Good day, everybody. I'm going to teach you all how to use Sony Vegas and how to just get started with video production. This is going out to all my speed friends, speed pals. So I'm going to start off with some advice, and then we'll get into how to do some shit with Vegas. So the first thing I'll say is that Vegas is by far the easiest program to edit with. Adobe Premiere, if you plan on doing things in the long run, is tougher to use, but won't have as many problems with crashing, and overall is a more advanced program as a whole. You can still do a lot in Vegas. A lot of top YouTubers still use Vegas to this day, but just letting you know that Premiere is slightly more advanced. And if you're working on super heavy projects, Vegas does have issues with overloading your CPU and crashing and stuff. Another thing I will recommend is you need creativity going into editing. Do not go into editing when you're not feeling creative. Um, you can feel motivated to work, but you can feel creatively empty. Those are definitely two completely separate entities as a whole. And you need creativity to flow first and foremost, and then you need efficiency slash work ethic slash will to want to edit. That needs to be on second, because if you overwork yourself when you're not creative, it's gonna hurt your fucking brain and you can end up having a panic attack. I've learned that the hard way. So let's get into Vegas. The first thing you want to do is click on File and go to Properties. These are your basic settings for your preset window inside of Vegas. And normally you want 60 FPS, 1920 by 1080. Just copy these settings and make sure to disable motherfucking resample. Start new projects with all that. Most of this stuff is not important. Just try to copy these settings. Um, so now I'm going to import a video and then we're going to get to some stuff. So let's see, one of my PBs, some GoldenEye or something, Chicago 14. That works. There we go. So here's my Chicago 14 in perfect dark. Now the first thing you'll see is that we have we have a video and an audio lane. This is just how everything in editing works. Um, uh, Video lanes are where videos go. Audio lanes is where audios go. You can't have anything else. There's visuals and audio. That's all there is to it. The two lines you see here, this is obviously very low, so this is like a bad example. The audio on this run is really, really low. Maybe I should pick a different one, although it's common that most of my runs have low audio. So let's try this one. This Pelagic 2 run I have here. Yeah, so you can see that we've got two lanes. This is the top one is the left ear and the bottom one is the right ear. So I'm just gonna delete that just to it's just to show that. You can kind of see over here actually that some parts here is very slightly louder in the left ear and some parts louder in the right ear. That's just because of stereo. Um, so we got our visual layer and our audio layer. What we can do with a visual layer, the very first thing I'm going to fucking teach you is right click, switches, disable resample. On every video clip that is moving, you don't need to do it with still images, but with everything that's moving, it will add a shitty ghost effect if smart resample is on. It is fucking annoying and I have no idea. I swear you can do so that every clip is automatically disabled resample. Um, but it's yeah, I don't know. I haven't really fucking found a way. So it's rough. But just do that manually with every clip you insert into Vegas, especially before you start editing. Sometimes I put in a 3-hour video, I start cutting it all up, and then shit, I forgot to disable resample. So if I didn't do that on the whole clip at first, then I'm going to have to go through the individual clips and find them all. So that's all for that. Disable resample all the time. I'll teach you a little bit about fades. I have like a little written here. So fades. Fades are basically, oops, let me just do that. So fades are basically, if you zoom really far into a clip, you can see that you see what my mouse is set as. It says fade out. So basically, what a fade is this. It's basically just fading out, you know, your video clip. So here we got my Chicago 14, and I'm fading it out. It's fading to black, very slowly but surely. The way you can change that as well is you can right click here and you can change the fade. I only really use this one for a more straight one, this one, and the default one, the fourth one I think. This one. So it's 1, 2, and 3. These two are just weird. I don't really know why they're there, but they are. So that's all about fades. Um, so let's see what else I got. Opacity, mute, and solo. So on the right hand side, basically you can control each individual clip just individually, or you can control the entire lane. So say I have, by the way, I usually work with this big gray space at the bottom here. Like moving this thing around, you never want to drag it like that because it just does that. I always click in this gray area at the bottom. Even if I add a shitload of layers like this, I still scroll down and click the gray part down here all the time. So let's just delete these layers. Um, so I'm going to teach you about opacity. So if you want something to be like slightly less visible, you can turn the opacity down by dragging the top of the video. And so let's put that to 40. So say I want two runs to be playing over each other. So let's take this GoldenEye runway run here. So I'm going to set another video track. I'm going to delete the audio real quick. Oh, by the way, there'll be I've set it so that the audio and video don't go together. It was just more helpful for the previous video I did, but normally they'll be grouped together. The way you clear them, if you want, is you go to group and then clear right here. So I'm just going to delete the audio because I don't need it for this demonstration. So if I want to overlay two runs at the same time, what I can do is this works basically like a sandwich kind of thing. Like, so what you see on top is what you see completely. Like, you can't see what's below it. But if I fade it out like this, you can start to see this Chicago run is blending in the background. So now both of them are playing. Oh yeah, and if you want to preview something and not have it lag, you can change that up here. So I'm going to just put it to really shitty quality. So you can see that two runs are playing over each other like that. That's because of the opacity. So if I put that to 0, the Chicago run is now like over the top. So that's about opacity. You can also click the M for mute. So if I don't want the audio, that'll be muted. If I don't want the runway run anymore, like just for, for whatever reason, I can click the M button up there. You can also mute a video like that. If I only want, let's say I have a shitload of videos playing on top of each other, and I only want the runway run, I click on S, which is solo. So that solos out this lane. It mutes every other lane. So, let's see what else we got. So yeah, that's that. Next, we're going to talk about crossfading. Crossfading is basically dragging a video over each other like that to get this X, and that basically does so that. Let me just turn this down for myself. It basically does this. So now the end screen is slowly but surely like transitioning over into the runway run. So one thing is fading out, the other one's fading in. So that's a crossfade. Pretty simple stuff. I use it a lot. It's very helpful. Next thing is velocity. Actually, let's talk about effects. Let's talk about effects. So right here there's two buttons over here, and we're going to be using both of them, but I'm going to teach you both. The first one is effects, which is the right one. The right one is this little plus. Here you got all the video effects. There's also audio effects, but we're just going to go into video effects here. Let's say I want the video to be black and white. There's Vegas black and white right here. Double click on it, and it'll add it up here. You can see my mouse, right? Oh my god, you can't. Shit, that's really bad. Hopefully, let me just enable that. There we go. Sorry about that. Hopefully that didn't make things too bad. I don't really want to redo this now. But yeah, we got up here in black and white. Yeah, so you can double click on any of these and it will add that. So if I click OK, you can see it goes black and white, and I can untick that. I can change that effect. I can just uncheck it if I want. I don't really want that. I want color correction. Let's see with that color corrector. So I want that instead. I'm going to color correct it to nice purple. Brilliant. So that's the effects, and for the audio, there's the same button here. You can boost the audio a bit, you can distort it, you can do a bunch of shit, reverb, noise gate, bunch of good stuff. Next up is velocity. Now this is a really big one that I didn't know for the longest time. Velocity is basically what you use to stop and freeze a video. It was much simpler in Sony Vegas, or in not Sony Vegas, in Movie Maker back in the day, but it's quite complicated here, but you have more control over it once you get used to it. So say I'm making a tutorial on Runway Secret Agent, and I want to pause the run on this grenade throw right here. So what I do is I right click and I go to insert/remove envelope and go to velocity. Now this creates a whole line, and this line basically represents the playback rate of the video clip, and our current playback rate is 100%. So when a video is just playing at its normal speed, it's running at 100%. If I want to speed it up by 200%, like if I wanted to run it twice as fast, I can put it to that, and you can see the run is going apeshit now. It's running twice as fast. You can also right click on it and go set to normal. But what we can do is you can slow it down at specific points. You can add, so let me find that grenade throw again. So we've got the grenade throw. I want to pause it there. I right click on the spot where I want it and add a point. Now at this point, yeah, I didn't add it right on. It doesn't add it like, I have to zoom pretty far in, but it doesn't really matter ultimately. So I add a point, and with this point, I can add another one, and I can slow it down. So I can even make it go in a reverse, or I can speed it up. So say I have the run going at normal speed here, and then once it hits this point, it starts going super fast. In the same manner, I can freeze the video. So I can drag the same thing down and drag it below it. And then I right click on it and set it to 0. And now imagine a tutorial video where it's frozen here. And if I want to return it to normal, I just, zoom in again, drag another one above it and set it to normal. And boom. Just like that. And if I want to gradually slow something down, I can do the same thing. Just going to delete these points. I can keep it at 0. Well, if I want to slow it down until it freezes, I can add it all the way over here, and then right click it and add it to 0. So you can see it's normal, and then it's going slow and slow and slow until it freezes. So you can play around with velocity. It's really useful. Velocity also works for fading. It's a more advanced way of fading, so you can actually do the same thing with, for some reason I haven't been able to find it in the menu. I think it's just Shift V. Yeah, Shift V, and it controls the volume shifter. So it literally works the same way. If I want it to be louder, I put it to 5 decibels above. Don't do it too much because it'll clip, the volume. So you can add some points. So if I wanted to go lower, just like that. I use this a lot actually. My advanced videos, this is all over it. But keep in mind it controls the entire lane. So if I don't want it to bleed into the next video's audio, I gotta remember in this empty space to turn it back up like this, like that, and then we're back to normal. Obviously, there's no audio on this, but yeah, you get the idea. And if you don't want it anymore, I think it's just Control V. Yep, there you go. So that's velocity. Very fucking important. I do highly recommend mastering it. It's really good especially if you want to make a tutorial. Okay, another thing is zooming. So let's say I want to zoom in on my Chicago end screen here. This is where we want the other button, which is called Video Event FX. And we are entering the pan and crop tool. So first of all, the pan and crop tool works in like many different ways. The first thing is if you're working with a 16:9 video, turn off maintain aspect ratio under switches here. This will make the video stretch out. So if you're working with a 4:3 video, I recorded this in 16:9. I just have the black bars in OBS, but normally it'd be like this, right? It'd normally be like this, like that, where the black bars are like that. But when you disable aspect ratio, it stretches it. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And so you want to do that, and you want to turn off the aspect ratio like no matter what a lot of the time, and then right click here and then match output aspect ratio, and it'll match it. It's the same now because it's 1920 by 1080. It's the same as before. It's what I recorded it in. So, what was I going to teach you? Yeah, I was going to teach you about zooming. So if you want to zoom in to your end screen, so let me just like clip this so we have like a separate thing we can work with here. So we got our end screen here. So I'm going to click on this, and you can either sync. I recommend syncing the cursor, which means when you move your thing here, it also moves it in here. So as you can see, I'm at the start of the video. It's at the start. It's in the middle. It's in the middle. It's at the end. It's at the end. So sync the cursor in the bottom left, And now you want to create some key points or keyframes, as they're called. Um, there's a button to make it do it automatically. I do believe whenever you sync the cursor, it does it automatically. So right now, it just looks like this. If I want to zoom in on it, I'm going to do it from start to finish. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click on these two boxes to lock the aspect ratio like this, as you can see. If I didn't have those on, it would just be like this. You can see it's free flow. And also this arrow is really useful if you want to like pan it. I can teach you that later. So let's say I want to zoom in. I just do this. I want to zoom in on the time. So we want that. And now it looks like this. So it's zooming in on the time. If you wanted to zoom in faster, you can drag the keyframe, go into it earlier. So like this. So basically, it's just you're animating something from one point to the other. So it's like this at 0 seconds, it's like that around the 4-second mark. So well, in between, it's just moving closer and closer and closer until it hits that keyframe. And even if you want, you can edit more of it where you can right click, restore, and it'll go back out. So it's zooming in, and then it's zooming back out. Simple. I'll teach you about panning as well. So let's say I want to pan over the time. So I'm going to zoom really far in so people don't know what the time is on. I'm going to free roam this, and I'm going to create a keyframe here and a keyframe at the end. And I'm going to select move in x-axis only, so I can't actually move it up and down. As you can see, it's only in the x-axis, and I drag it all the way past the time. It's not perfectly lined up, so you won't get it. But basically, this is how you do stuff like this. So you can see, ooh, 14, and then like it's kind of going past it. So that's a really neat thing. You can do it with the y-axis too. It's pretty simple stuff. You can do it from corner to corner. You can do it from the start here, and in the end, you can move it up here, and it'll look like that. You know, simple, easy shit. Okay, so that's zooming. Now let's talk about masking, which is actually something I learned this year. Masking is very important. So let's say again, I want to highlight the time. It's actually this bottom layer that you see here. So let's just restore it so we have the whole thing. So it's actually this bottom layer. You see how the position tree, or the position, whatever you want to call it, the window, I guess, is oh sorry, let me just redo this. There we go. Like there's two layers. One is position, one is mask. So we're gonna turn on mask, and this basically is for like highlighting things, faces, anything like that. So I'm gonna select the square tool to highlight my time, like that. So as you can see, the time is the only thing showing, so everything else is cropped out. So now we only got the 14. Now if I want the time to be highlighted, there's probably a better way to do this, but this is what I've always done. I'm probably going to look into a better way here in the future, but copy, Control C, Control V, and then put them on top of each other, and then remove the mask from the bottom one. So remove the mask, and then opacity 50 or 40 or something like that. So now you can see the 14 is shining a lot harder than before, and that's because this top layer is only showing the 14. So this is for like blurring out faces and stuff like that. It's really useful, and it's also for highlighting stuff like times with lighting and stuff. And you can even do it with circles and shit. You can do it manually too with like, if I wanted to, let's just delete all that. If I wanted the whole times page here, I can do this. Something like this. Oops. Didn't quite do it right, but you get it. So now we got only this part. So that part is masked. Um, so yeah, really useful. Definitely useful to mess around with. And trying to think if there's anything else that's a bit worrisome. I guess rendering settings. So for some reason, Vegas has issue. So once you're done with your project, I double click at the bottom to select it all, and then go to File and Render As. And you want to usually, so there's a bunch of codecs that you can render in, and I usually use main concept AVC AAC. Um, so you like click on that, and then you select one of these and then create your custom template. I already have mine here. HD, you know, great stuff, great naming. Uh, so here's my settings. Copy them if you want. Obviously, put it at the correct frame rate. Don't put your bit rate too high. 50 is already like kind of killing it, but you know, I create YouTube videos for a living. So, and go to project and then make sure the video rendering quality is best. These are not very important. But one thing you want to make sure to watch out for is if you're experiencing that Vegas is darkening your video, it has a problem with the codec. The MP4 codecs on Vegas are kind of weird and they don't really work that well. So once you render your first video, um, try to look up a way to solve that if you're getting that issue. Um, I forget how I solved it, but there are definitely ways to solve it. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, I'm glad I kept it at 20 minutes because this is just about what you need to know to edit. Um, Once you get like a super well done video, it'll start looking something like this. It'll start looking like, you know, like this, basically. So, you know, we got my voiceovers here at the bottom, and obviously it says media offline because this is an old project where I deleted a bunch of my video footage, so it's missing footage. So here we got the leaderboards with a crossfade that I used earlier. Here's some screenshots, just some still images, and here's my construction site stuff. And I needed to, you can usually do this in Photoshop, but it's whatever's faster at the time. So I created 5 video layers on top of each other to do this. And then we got the arrow at one point. And as you can see, I froze the video here at one point as well. And I rendered this part like back here. This part over here is just like raw video of footage from a run and stuff like that that I just used. Um, One final thing I guess I'll teach you is Gaussian blur is a huge, it's kind of a stylistic choice that I just really enjoy using. Um, if you're new to using Vegas, you know, it's a blessing. So here's my War Agent 25. It's an effect, Sony Vegas, Gaussian blur. You see me use it all the time. It basically blurs out the background, so you have something in the back, but you want to highlight like an image or something. So let's say I want, um, let's let's just fucking take any image I've got. Uh, this perfect image of Captain Wiffle's deer. So let's say I want this in the front. So I'm gonna just like crop that and like make it a little bit smaller like that. And I want to make it like zoom in. I'm gonna delete this first keyframe and put it at the start. And I want to make it zoom in very slowly towards the end. So we got like, you know, the war run going on in the background. And then we got Wiffle. I'm talking about Wiffle. And yeah. So that's just like super simple stuff. I use this shit all the time on my videos if you've noticed. So Gaussian blur is super good. Check out all the other effects for sure. Like, let's see what's good. What can I recommend? Chroma key is something you might have experienced on Vegas. It basically does so like if I don't want any green in the video, like you know what it's basically like green screening. Like that's what chroma keys are. So let's just like let me show you what that looks like. It'll look really weird. So as you can see, it's all like the end screen's supposed to be green, and there's a lot of green on the in the game, but it's all weird now because I chroma keyed a specific color. And add noise is good. Black and white can be useful at times for like if you're ever in a situation where you want to remind something, like you want to look at a clip that you played earlier in the video or something from like ages ago, or if you want to have an old school effect, you can use that. Film grain is good with noise. Uh, Time code is kind of weird, but it's like a timer. I usually just record live split. And there's a bunch of other shit. And that's it, really. So hopefully that'll give you a brief rundown on how to edit. And I want to thank you all for watching and good luck editing. Peace.